Hello from David67. Rather disappointing result there for Celtic, all things considered. Just going to let the viewer figures just total up for a few minutes before we start. There should hopefully be a live match chat option open for those watching as well. So, all things considered, rather disappointing result for Celtic. One could always say that it means we can concentrate a bit more on the league and the Champions League, but it is rather disappointing that our League Cup season is over already. We've won 7 out of the last 9 League Cups. This actually is the first time, I think the commentators were saying, that Brendan Rodgers has lost a Scottish knockout cup competition. So obviously not an ideal start to the second version of Brendan Rodgers. If anybody is looking for some good news, and given the disappointing 1-0 result against Kilmarnock in the Viaplay League Cup, the good news would be that Celtic's women's team won 7-1 this afternoon in their game against Hamilton at the Excelsior Stadium in Airdrie. So nice that some of you are sending in your comments and your thoughts about the game. We'll come back to those a wee bit later on, just once the number of participants and comments and chat builds up a bit. But obviously a disappointing day. So I think we'll just start off just with a wee chat about what I thought of the game. And then obviously I say the chat room is open for any of your comments as well. And I'll do my best to put a positive but realistic polish on my thoughts for the game, and then respond to any comments or queries or questions or things that you want to discuss as well. So I fully expected Celtic to win today. I thought that Kilmarnock would be difficult to break down, certainly, but that Celtic had the firepower and the players on the pitch to break Kilmarnock down. Very reminiscent for me of the game against St Mirren last year, where we again got rather roughhoused off the ball, trying to break through 10-man defence, a bank of 7 and a bank of 3, with the other team really only trying to hit Celtic on the break. I thought that the Celtics seemed to lack a lot of incisiveness, a lot of pace. we seem to be playing a bit slower, a bit more considered under Brendan Rodgers, rather than the more all energy, all pace, all attack style we had last season under Ange Postecoglou. I think possibly maybe the players are slightly struggling to change from the Postecoglou all energy, we never stop format of playing the ball quickly, trying to break through the other team quickly. It was, as one of the people in the chat room has said, rather lackluster. We were slow. I thought Navroki and Lagabiel were doing fine, getting the ball off Joe Hart, getting the ball coming in from Ralston and Taylor. They were trying to distribute the ball well, but there seemed to be a lack of people showing for them in midfield or out wide. A few times I thought Lagerbielk had nice long balls out wide to Maeda. The Kilmarnock, however, seemed to shut that down quite nicely. And I did wonder whether trying those long balls over the top of the Kilmarnock defence for Abada and Kyogo and Maeda to run on to would have been a bit more useful rather than trying it out wide where there was a lack of space. I thought for the first time in a long time, Cal McGregor was rather missing. He wasn't really, for me, linking up the play from defence to midfield and then midfield to attack. He didn't seem to really playing his sort of what some people might call the quarterback role of coming deep, distributing, passing out wide, passing to midfield, taking 1-2s to find that pass through the midfield into the attack. It may be just simply the change of style, a change of tactics that Brendan Rodgers wants to play. Thought Derek McInnes set up Kilmarnock really well. They had a very good way of stopping Celtic playing. They pressurised, they hassled, they got in Celtic's way. They little niggly bits of time wasting, knocking the ball out of play, kicking the ball away to stop Celtic quickly, getting on with free kicks and corners and so on. So I think McInnes very much got Kilmarnock playing in a way that was going to slow Celtic down and stop Celtic getting on top. Kilmarnock so far this season have had 3 very good performances, nullifying Celtic today, nullifying Rangers in the opening Premier League fixture, nullifying Hearts as well. So I think Kilmarnock are going to be one of these teams, a bit like maybe St Mirren last season, that's going to frustrate us and frustrate the other teams who are more attacking and more on the front foot. Disappointing performances, I thought, from Kyogo, from Maeda, Abada, again, out wide, wasn't really giving Celtic very much. There were a few shots in, a few crosses into the box, a few crosses across the box. Kyogo had a few half chances. I think possibly the best chance Celtic had wasn't until Yang, with about 10 minutes to go, where the ball got deflected over the bar off the Kilmarnock player. Thought certainly when Yang came on, he showed a lot more pace, a lot more urgency. Haksabanovic, again, also quite a lot of pace and urgency. Wasn't terribly sure quite where Haksabanovic was supposed to be playing when he came on to be replace O'Reilly. It seemed like when Haksabanovic came on to replace O'Reilly that Maeda was more to play through the middle, but then there seemed to be no one out wide on the right to replace the the attack down the right wing. Ralston never really got forward the whole match. At the start of the second half, I thought Greg Taylor got himself involved a lot more, seemed to be sort of going back to the inverted fullback role that he played so well last season. And for the first sort of 5-10 minutes of the second half, Celtic looked like they were going to be the more likely team to win. But long ball up when Celtic were down to 10 men, when Greg Taylor was off, getting treated for some form of head injury or ear injury. Kilmarnock pumped the ball forward. Watkins held up the ball, crossed to Armstrong, who beat Maeda. Presumably, had Taylor been on the pitch, it would have been Taylor supported by Maeda out on the right-hand side to block that ball coming in. Flashed across the goal. Nawrocki and Lagerbielke weren't really blocking off that ball coming across the goal, and Watkins scored at the back post, just millimetres onside, it looked like, from the VAR check. According to the match statistics, both teams had 8 shots at goal, with 4 shots on goal by Kilmarnock and 3 shots on goal by Celtic. But I scarcely really remember either the Kilmarnock goalkeeper really having a proper shot to save. Joe Hart certainly had a nice save at his left post that he managed to push Brown for a corner. But I don't really remember the Kilmarnock goalkeeper making a proper save in the whole match. Lots of half chances for Kyogo, Maeda, Yang, Haksabanovic. There was a vague shout in the 94th minute for a penalty when Haksabanovic went down. Didn't seem like very much contact with the ball, but probably not really enough to call a penalty. So, yep, Kilmarnock played their tactics perfectly. 10 defenders in various banks of 3s and 4s and 7s and 6s. Got behind the ball, frustrated Celtic. Celtic didn't really seem to show the energy and the intelligence and the creativity to break through and get through to break Kilmarnock down. So, all things considered, rather disappointing. Disappointing to be knocked out of the Viaplay Cup, basically at our first game of the Viaplay Cup season. As I said earlier on, it's a competition we have an excellent record in. 7 of the last 9 winners. First time that Brendan Rodgers has lost a cup game in Scotland. Does allow us a chance to rebuild, practice more in training, and come again. Our next fixture against St Johnstone, who currently look like the poorest team in the Scottish Premier League, and so does give us a chance, whilst the players are working out how to play under the Rodgers system, and also working out what Celtic's best 11 is, with Hatate and Carter Vickers both currently missing through injury. I did notice earlier on that the Stephen Welsh injury is now being extended up to 3 or 4 months rather than 2 months. And so I do wonder whether Celtic might look in the next couple of weeks to bring in another central defender, simply as backup for Nawrocki, Lagerbielke and Carter Vickers. And so Xavier Mumbayamba Volendam might well be an option for Celtic in the next couple of weeks, as otherwise our backups are going to be Scales, and I'm not sure Scales is really the best option. Kobayashi's been struggling to settle down in Scotland, and so a loan might be better for Kobayashi. Tomoki Iwata last season, of course, finished off in central defence and did a pretty good job, although he is primarily a defensive midfielder. And so I do wonder whether we may just go into the transfer market and sign Mbuyamba from Volendam. He's thought to be more of a development project rather than a starter straight away. Don't think we could really fault, personally, and I don't think we could really fault either Nawrocki or Lagerbielke. They did fine for the very most part. That ball flashing across the 6-yard box, is that should one of them gone for it? Should it have been Joe Hart coming to take it? Again, I think that's just part of that is the defensive back five just getting to know each other, whose responsibility is to come for which balls. It was all rather disappointing. In terms of going forward, difficult to know, as I think it's just a time of bedding things in, players getting to know each other, change of system for quite a few of the Celtic players from last season. Odin Thiago home, I think he had good touches now and again. O'Reilly, good touches now and again. As I said earlier on, I thought McGregor wasn't really playing to his best abilities. I think this was one of Maeda's worst games I've seen from him. Didn't seem to have the same pace as normal. Abada also, I didn't seem to have the same attack, same pace to get down and round the back. Maybe they were struggling with the artificial all-weather pitch. A lot of players do seem to have a difficulty with playing on the all-weather artificial pitch. A couple of players seem to be struggling with cramps and so on later on in the game. Don't know what other people are thinking in terms of if Celtic need to strengthen any particular other positions. I do wonder whether having a more dynamic player at left back might well have helped today. Greg Taylor, who last season was getting forward far more, didn't really get into the final third very much at all. Last season, he scored a couple of really good goals, a few good passes. Of course, again, the first game against earlier on the season, he got Celtic a penalty against Ross County that started off Celtic's victory that day. A lot of talk in the press about Celtic trying to sign a left winger like Daniel Podence of Wolverhampton Wanderers, Ryan Fraser, who currently is completely out of favour at Newcastle. Not sure that Podence or Fraser would have made much difference today under these cramped circumstances of lots of players behind the ball. Celtic apparently also in the market for a third striker, with under 20 and 21 international at Brøndby in Denmark lined up. Tomorrow I'll be talking a wee bit more about my final reflections of the game, where Celtic go from here, and also a wee bit more of an update on the transfer options. So I think we probably should leave it there. Disappointing day for Celtic. We do run at top of the league, so there are positives. We're straight into the Champions League group stages. We have got time to rebuild things. A couple more weeks in the transfer window. Brendan Rodgers said to be looking for a couple of new players at least. The scouting system do seem to have a lot of players that they have a lot of scouting on. And there was mentioned also that they have fallback positions if any of Celtic's players do get transferred away before the end of the transfer window, with players such as O'Reilly, Obada, and Hatate all said to be attracting interest from down south and from the continent of Europe. I still feel one of Celtic's main positions that they should be looking to strengthen in the next couple of weeks is at goalkeeper. Some people might say that Joe Hart probably could have come for that ball, intercepted the cross that came across the 6-yard box. He did make a good save. Thought he commanded his box a bit better this week than the last 2 weeks. And it may well just have been a question of Hart getting to know the two new central defenders to quite work out whose responsibility it was coming for that ball. So I think we'll put that down to experience. Hopefully Celtic can adapt. As I said, last season against St Mirren, we came up against a very similar team, pressurising Celtic, hassling them, trying to cut out the balls from McGregor out wide. And after the St Mirren fixture, midway through the first half of the season last season, Celtic did come again and played much better, more dynamic, more pace, more cleverness to get the ball round the back. So thank you for your participation in the chat zone. And I'll post again tomorrow with further, more considered reflections of the game and review of the game, plus looking a wee bit at further transfer rumours. Hopefully we'll get a better indication whether we can expect Alistair Johnston back before the international break. It would be great if he was available for the Rangers fixture just before the international break. International break obviously also gives Celtic a wee bit of a chance to put things back together, plan things, a bit more practice as well for those who are not away on international duty. And as I said earlier on, our next fixture is against St Johnstone, and I would be very hopeful that that we can get through the St Johnstone fixture and get things more settled down. So sad day for Celtic, sad day for me. Never nice to see the team lose. And goodbye, and speak to you again tomorrow.